This, of course, is Stinchfield the Podcast. Let me tell you a little story. I've got a friend of mine. He's borderline a liberal. He doesn't talk politics a lot. I play cards with him, gin rummy, to be in fact, at my golf club up in Richardson, Texas. And he told me over the weekend, just to give me the little zig-zig, that, hey, he says, hey, anti-vaxxer, I just want you to know I got the COVID shot and the flu shot yesterday. I don't even respond because I can't argue with him, and it just isn't worth it, and I want to enjoy my time because I'm never going to get it through his head that I really don't believe in this COVID shot. The flu shot, I'm a little confused over, but I don't get it. But this COVID shot, not a good idea by all accounts. So I thought I'd spend some time. I doubt he'll ever watch this podcast, but for anybody out there that has a family member, that has a loved one, and is thinking about getting this COVID vaccine, the experimental shot as they call it, I figured the best guy to go to is Dr. Peter McCullough. He's become such an expert on this. Senators go to him for information. And this is the one guy, in my opinion, if you had to pick one, this is the guy I'd go to on this topic. So I'm going to talk to Dr. Peter McCullough today about this very issue. Why not to get the vaccine? Okay, or if there's any opportunity where you should get it. I'm going to ask him. We're going to talk about that. Of course, the podcast is brought to you by the Wellness Company, twc.health/Grant. Use that promo code Grant. If everybody out there had one of these, we'd be a much safer place. This is the emergency medical kit with prescription medications in here, including ivermectin. There's a Z-Pack in here, amoxicillin. I've used it for strep throat to stop that in its tracks. You need to get one of these. And then I'll also tell you, the methylene blue is a very popular product right now. They have it. It's probably the purest form of methylene blue you can get on the market. I'm not going to go into all the details about it, but if you want energy, cure your brain fog, this methylene blue is fabulous. twc.health/Grant. Use the promo code Grant. I've started taking it, and I can already feel a difference in the way I'm going about my day. twc.health/Grant. Use that promo code Grant for 10% off. All right, with that, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, I promised you the great Dr. McCullough would join us, and here he is. Doc, it's great to have you on the program.
Grant, it's great to be back. I can tell you're using Wellness Company products. Your hair looks a little thicker up top, and you're looking good as hard as you work every day.
Well, I really am. I've been on the spike detox, even though I did not take the vaccine, but I have had COVID, so I started that. I'm on the methylene blue product, and what's the other one? Oh, and I just finished the parasite cleanse. And I think the parasite cleanse is what really did some good for me. I lost bloat. Not that I was ever really fat, but I had a bloated stomach, and I'm like, could I have really had parasites, Doc?
Well, it depends. I was on with Eric Bowling. Eric, former MLB player. Eric said he ate sushi every night. And I said, sooner or later, you're going to pick up a parasite or some of the spores if you have pets and dogs and go to Central America or Mexico. Chances are you do pick up something.
That could have been part of my problem because I, like Eric, who I used to work with at Newsmax, eat sushi all the time. And so
there you go.
So that could be it. All right, so you heard me tell my story about my friend, and he is a friend, and I'm worried about him. He had a heart attack about a year ago, and now I start questioning, could the vaccine have been part of that? He's in pretty good shape. He's not overweight. He takes care of himself for the most part. He's in his 70s, and he brags about getting the COVID shot and the flu shot to me, knowing that it's going to bother me, and I didn't engage with him. But if this was my father, and I brought him into your office, and I said, hey, Doc, should he get the COVID shot or not? What would you tell him?
Boy, I tell you, we're pretty deep into this 5 years. My neighbor does the same thing. I usually get home around 5 or 6 and I work out and I go running. And many times he's on his front porch and he'll kind of shout out to me. He goes, hey, Doc, I got my most recent booster. And he says, I'm well. And then I point to him. I said, look at me. I'm running. I took no shots whatsoever. And I'm well. So, the reality is, can both be true? Well, it's certainly possible. If we go to howbadismybatch.com, about 75% of the Pfizer batches, for instance, there's been no fatal side effects reported, none. When analyzed, and this was done by Vibeke Manichi, who's going to be in Washington today testifying in the Senate, she's broken the news that not all the vials are the same. So, for instance, my mother-in-law took 2 Pfizer shots, had no side effects whatsoever, and we finally measured her spike antibodies. And it turns out her number was 200. Anything less than 1,000 is really low-level spike exposure. Now, yesterday, had a young man who had heart damage, all kinds of problems, developed a turbo cancer. He was about 8,000 on that spike test. So the test is quite revealing. But for your friend, you can look at it now, and the major question is, has he had COVID-19? Well documented. If that's the case, a paper by Chen and colleagues, New England Journal of Medicine 2022, very, very good paper, 59,000 prisoners, 17,000 staff, meticulous data. If someone's already had COVID and they get another case like now, there's a 0 chance of hospitalization and death. 0. Doesn't matter whether or not you took a vaccine. So he's not taking the vaccine to save his life or avoid hospitalization. The only purpose of taking a vaccine would be to try to get 1 or 2 months of theoretical protection in reducing COVID. Now, the question is, does it even do that? A recent paper by Shretha and colleagues from the Cleveland Clinic shows the more shots people take, the more they get recurrent COVID.
Which then would tell you, from a reasonable person's perspective, if you believe the study, why would you take the shot if then it increases your chance of getting COVID? I think there's been this narrative that's been pushed by doctors that somehow the COVID vaccine will reduce the severity of the virus if you get it. Is there any truth to that?
There isn't. In fact, there was a completely fraudulent paper, sadly to say fraudulent, published by Dr. John Ioannidis, who's at Stanford. He's one of the most published doctors in the world. He's one of the few doctors who's published more than me. And Ioannidis published an analysis in New England Journal of Medicine saying globally that the COVID vaccines saved 2 million lives. And all it was complete fabrication. He said, well, the world's population is this. We estimate that 2/3 of the world took a COVID shot, and the COVID shots should cut mortality by 75% in the Delta wave and 50% in the Omicron wave. Well, that's just an assumption. There's never been a randomized trial that showed mortality reduction in COVID vaccines, and there's no valid non-randomized study. So it's simply a mathematical guess that the vaccines save lives. And in fact, 12 studies, Grant, show actually with vaccination, all-cause mortality has gone up.
All right, and so all-cause mortality, that is the number of total deaths, right, from whatever time frame you're using. Say it's last year. So total deaths go up. Did we see, following the vaccine coming to the market, that all-cause mortality, those deaths rise after the vaccine? And then can we prove that it's the vaccine, or did the deaths rise because of COVID?
We have certainly the first year of COVID, there was no vaccine. So we have 2020, we can analyze that. And with that, there was no rise in all-cause mortality. There was simply kind of a reassignment of cause, meaning about 40% of the COVID deaths were people beyond their life expectancy anyway, who may have, died of heart disease or cancer or something else in the year anyway. So before the vaccines, there was no rise in all-cause mortality. It's when the vaccines come out, we still have COVID, the vaccines don't work, and then the COVID vaccines start contributing to fatal vaccine syndromes. And they became known as myocarditis, heart damage, blood clots, terrible neurologic events like stroke, paralysis, Guillain-Barré syndrome, and then autoimmune syndromes. And lastly, what's on the horizon may be what's called turbo cancer. So no, there's nothing with the vaccines where they would reduce mortality rates. In fact, they, with their side effects, increase the number of deaths.
So this is interesting because from what we would have been told from the mainstream media in 2020 when COVID first hits the scene, you would have think there would have been a large spike in all-cause mortality because of all of these COVID deaths around the globe. And what you're saying is we didn't see that. Then you would think that if we believe the media that we'd see a reduction in all-cause mortality because the shots are saving so many lives. But in fact, the exact opposite happened. So these statistics are not one statistic from another statistic. These are legitimately factual statistics. They died or they didn't die. That's it. It's not even cause of death. It's just they died, right?
It's coming out everywhere. In a paper in the journal Science, Public Health Policy and Law by Hulscher and myself and others, we demonstrate, this dozen or so studies that have shown that mortality rising all over the world where they took the shots. For instance, Alessandria from Italy published an analysis clearly showing that. But also Ed Dowd, former Wall Street executive, BlackRock executive, has been studying the insurance claims, the death claims for life insurance. And they've skyrocketed among working age people, our age, Grant, who shouldn't be dying, but in fact they are, and their spouses and family members are filing for insurance claims. So there's multiple sources of data suggesting, I tell you, 2021 is going to be the worst year. Then 2022 a little better and a little better, but it's not due to the infection. I think it's due to the vaccines. So
let me ask you then, trying to be intellectually honest here, because everybody knows that I've been a big proponent of canceling these vaccines. What are the chances that you have a negative effect taking this vaccine? So I've seen the young athletes who drop over, the Damar Hamlin stories that I firmly believe that was the Buffalo Bills player. I think the vax played a role in that. But we've seen the stories. But what's the actual chances that a guy in his 40s, 50s, or an 18-year-old boy suffers myocarditis or a heart attack or turbo cancer if you take the vaccine? Do we know? Is it slim or is it great? What are the chances that you have a negative effect?
Two sources of data with the heart damage. That's my area. I'm a cardiologist. One published by Mansugian, the other one by Bergen, show the chances of heart damage per shot, clinically detected by blood testing, echocardiography, EKG, is about 2.5% per shot. Now, there's a Pfizer study that didn't measure the blood test so assiduously, and they came in just under 1%. But let's just take it at 2%, for instance. That's not a small number. I mean, if a million people take it, that's going to be a considerable number of people, thousands of people with heart damage.
Yeah.
And then you'll start to see the manifestations, cardiac arrest and heart failure and other problems. I see heart damage every day in my practice due to the vaccine.
For everybody out there to review on Dr. McCullough, your real claim to fame was as a renowned cardiologist. You were head of cardiology at Baylor. Is that right?
No, I was in the leadership role at Baylor. I was the vice chief of medicine. I was previously the chief of cardiology at the University of Missouri in Kansas City. I was the chief academic scientific officer of Ascension Health in Michigan. So I've held some of the highest positions in the country.
All right. So the reason I ask this is liberals, if they watch this, if somebody has a conservative niece and the niece takes this to their grandmother who's a liberal, maybe a Biden supporter, and says, I want you to watch this, where Stinchfield and McCullough talking about this. You're going to be known as a right-wing quack, according to those on MSNBC. I'm going to be known as a right-wing racist extremist. But I'm trying to get down to the bottom of who we really are, which is just two people concerned about everybody, whether you're liberal or conservative, and that you have real academic chops behind you. And I want everyone to notice, when I listen to you, Doctor, you are quoting study after study after study. And you just acknowledged to me that take a 2%, one is 2.5%, one is 1% for cardiac problems. 2%, that's 2 out of 100 people. As you mentioned, that's a big number. But I want people to know this about specifically you and about me in some respects as well.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Medicine is apolitical, Grant, so we want people to be healthy and vigorous. whether you're on one side of the aisle or the other, I'm really a political independent. You've never seen me make charged political statements on your show. I'm here to provide evidence as I see it evolving. I'm publishing actively in this field. I'm one of the most published people in my field in history. I'm one of the most published people in COVID-19. My testimony has been accurate when I've been in Washington. I take an oath. I raise my hand, and I'm sworn to tell the truth and answer the questions the best I can. I don't want to bring bad news to the nation, Grant, but if it's 2.5% suffering heart damage, now we add in nerve damage, stroke, the fact that the shots can provoke a heart attack, for instance, and we add it up. It's probably from a survey done a few years ago, the penumbra of effects beyond the heart from the vaccines is probably now about 10 to 15% will have some problem from that next shot. Another source of data to quote is the vSafe data. This was the CDC cell phone app that people could take the shots. They could report what's happened acutely, Grant. And this is in 10 million Americans, huge sample size. The rate of somebody developing a medical problem after the shots within a few days, requiring treatment by a doctor or hospitalization, that number is 7.7%.
Wow. So when we look at this now, Doc, and I hear you lay out these numbers, what do you say to somebody who says, no, you're just plain wrong? I've watched these former CDC and FDA employees tell us that they're save lives, and you get the, no, you're wrong. What do you tell people when they just tell you you're wrong?
We've had so many Senate hearings on this, Grant, and I go there on my own dime. I get my own flights. I get my own hotel. I get my own Uber. I show up. I raise my hand and I testify. Do you know people from the CDC every time have been asked to attend to provide their opinions? Anthony Fauci's been invited, Rochelle Lewinsky. They've all been invited to attend. They don't show up to even give their perspective or hear the other side. The CDC has never held a COVID vaccine safety symposium so we can review the data together. So I think at this point in time, the CDC is not trustable on vaccine data. They were charged to be an vaccine promotional unit within the government. They are not going to be a fair broker of safety information.
I wasn't going to play this clip because I really wanted this podcast to be used to see people without politics in it. And RFK Jr. just raises so many. I mean, he's such I don't want to say, he's a polarizing figure, let's say that, when it comes to this. But I want you to hear the story that he told. You said that the CDC isn't trustworthy. This was a story he told. So if I could ask any liberals watching this, put aside the fact that it's RFK Jr. and listen to the story.
Yeah, I mean, that individual actually came to my attention because early on during the measles outbreak, I promised Governor Abbott to send some money down, badly needed money, and help down to Texas. And this individual blocked that money for a month. I couldn't figure out what's happening. I gave the order. I'm running this agency. How come nothing's happening? And then we tried to get the vaccine safety data link, which is the data that supposedly the CDC tries to use to make good decisions on whether vaccines are hurting people and whether there are side effects. For 7 months, he stonewalled us so that we could not get that data. He's also the individual that runs the VAERS system, which is the surveillance system for injuries, that captures, according to CDC's own study, fewer than 1% of vaccine injuries. This is malpractice. These people are the people who ordered our children to walk around in masks. They're the people who closed our schools. They're the people who imposed social distancing with no science, shut down our businesses, and they need to go. We need new.
So he'll go on about that, but here you have an employee inside CDC that refuses to give the secretary data, and I understand that RFK Jr. is polarizing. I get that I will admit, I think RFK Jr. comes in with an anti-vax bias before ever taking the helm. I believe that. But I also think he's on to something here. But put his polarizingness aside, and just the sheer fact that if a secretary asks for data, why wouldn't you give it to him? Why wouldn't they give him the data? That, to me, says a lack of transparency, and it speaks to nefariousness, Doc.
It speaks to a cover-up. Maybe the CDC knows there are serious safety concerns with the routine childhood schedule. But, this idea of CDC trustworthiness, just go to the CDC website and you'll see the most bizarre collection of presentations. A few years ago on the CDC website, they had a whole learning module called the zombie apocalypse. It was like some type of infectious disease scenario where people turned into zombies. It was on the CDC website. The CDC website has also had instructions, Grant, on how men can breastfeed babies. They put this on their website. So the CDC itself, through its website, is reflecting this kind of very bizarre, distorted, delusional collection of individuals that work at the CDC. There's 6,600 of them. RFK's just, let go 600 and some people at the top. I think there's a long ways to go. Now the CDC does not treat patients. So if the CDC went away tomorrow, there would be no lives lost. They're not treating patients. People have put CDC up on a pedestal. They are simply a support agency. They're supposed to be supporting me and you, supporting the higher hierarchy like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and President Trump. But the CDC is not a medical provision unit. If they went away tomorrow, nothing would change.
Nothing would change. All right, I want to ask you another question about my friend, and I know you can't diagnose him without seeing him and all these things, but it is an interesting question about his heart attack and the vaccine. But before I do that, I want to tell people about this great, I would call it a prescription medication kit from, it's kind of a Trumpism. I call it the prescription medication kit. Well, that's exactly what it is. It is a prescription medication kit from the wellness company. You got many of the most popular and most needed prescription medications on hand. Speed of delivery is everything when it comes to this. And there's a new product out. And again, twc.health/grant. And this new product is called MARS, M-A-R-S, from the wellness company. It's a doctor-formulated nutraceutical designed to restore vitality without synthetic hormones or stimulants. So I should try this. Truthfully, I'm on testosterone. This is dubbed to be a replacement for that. So I'm going to try this, all right? Drastically in a big way. So low testosterone affects energy, motivation, fertility, muscle mass, mood for future generations. If you're looking for a boost, Mars will have you feeling like you are on another planet. Head to twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. Again, that's twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. And again, folks, I have not tried that product, but I have tried and still use so many of the wellness company products because I truly trust all of the doctors involved, including Dr. McCullough and so many others. Everything is formulated to the highest standards. It's why they're often sold out of so many things. But twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. Doc, what about this Mars product? Legit?
Well, Grant, remember what we're trying to do is use natural products to stimulate local secretion of testosterone, but also boost the pituitary secretion of FSH and LH. The main LH is one of the main drivers. And if this can be done naturally, let the testicles do their job and produce testosterone. As you've inferred, testosterone is important for bone strength, muscle mass, vitality, and some men really drop off this testosterone curve more rapidly than others.
Well, if this can boost testosterone, I believe you guys are saying it can. I urge people to try it because it's life-changing. Once you start to increase your testosterone levels, life changes for you, especially guys our age, Doc. All right, let me ask you about my friend I was telling you about that I was playing cards with. About a year ago, I felt very bad. As I mentioned to you, he leans left. We got in a big argument at my club. And then I find out later that afternoon he had a heart attack. I was worried that I was the guy responsible for the heart attack. And we had an argument over cards of all things. And so I felt literally horrible. I now look back and he acknowledges he doesn't think it was our argument. He just had a bad event. Is there any way it could be the vaccine? And if you're going to have a heart attack from the vaccine, does it come within a certain amount of days or can it come at any time?
I think the answer is it can come at any time. The spike protein has now been found in the blood vessels which go to the heart. So remember, the vaccine produces the spike protein, and as it distributes through the body, it produces more and more spike protein that accumulates. The COVID vaccines are clearly been related to progression of atherosclerotic heart disease and heart attacks. And if this person is otherwise in good shape, doesn't smoke, his cholesterol and other risk factors are handled, and he's taking COVID vaccines, what else is there? It's almost certainly the COVID vaccine as the culprit.
Well, he did smoke cigars leading up to that. He quit smoking the cigars after the heart attack. And so then I ask, if you've had a heart attack, anybody, are you more susceptible to having a heart attack again, or is that just a one-off?
No, you're more susceptible again, because then there's coronary atherosclerosis, unstable plaque, or the inner lining of the blood vessels, so that one's at higher risk. So I'd be really concerned that he's had one heart attack, he's probably had coronary artery stenting done, and now he's going for more vaccines, dialing up even greater risk. Now remember, with each heart attack, there's an increasing chance that the next one would be fatal. The human body can only take so many.
So then why is a cardiologist, your everyday cardiologist, not telling him, hey, I don't think you should get the COVID vax? I mean, are doctors just not seeing this, the same thing that you're seeing?
Yeah, the doctors at this point in time are offering bad advice. Now, most patients I have, their doctors are telling them, listen, quietly, don't take any more shots. I had a patient today whose doctor is telling him, listen, just don't take any more. But some haven't gotten the message yet. And in fact, sadly, some of the doctors are still taking shots themselves. I mean, Grant, most people haven't been worried about COVID in years. I don't know, you could probably go out on Greenville all the time with everybody out there. Nobody's worried about COVID. It's over with. There's no reason to take shots.
You know what the funny thing was? Or not funny, but I was never worried about it. I don't know what it was, but I traveled around the country it was the best thing going. I got cheap airfare. I stayed in hotels that were empty. And I had really the time of my life in 2020 but I lived in Texas. Things were a little bit easier. But still, I don't know. I just was always skeptical of this. Well, Dr. Peter McCullough, it's always a pleasure talking to you about these things. I hope this helps somebody of just having a calm, realistic talk about this. Not a lot of people can do that. And I hope this is helpful for people.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. And again, I'm going to remind people, where can they find you, Doc, just so we can get you some follows?
Well, go to the Wellness Company and check out all of our educational materials. We just came out with a wonderful spike protein guide so people can learn about spike protein in the body after the COVID infection, and as well as the vaccines. Our wonderful line of products, certainly the nutraceutical products, the telemedicine, health education and wellness, and the emergency medical kits. We keep innovating with more products. Also, follow me on social media, P_McCullough MD. Follow me everywhere. I've got McCullough Report on America Out Loud Talk Radio, Focal Points Substack, and of course, my new book, Grant, just made the New York Times bestseller with John League, Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality.
Wow. Well, we'll have to check that out. Amazing stuff. You continue to have great success. We're so proud of you and proud to know you and proud to have you on the program. The Substack is great. All of it's great, but the Substack is great too. I get it delivered via email to my inbox every day, just about. Sometimes it comes in the afternoon, but it's great to see you, Dr. McCullough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, folks, let me just remind you of the website, twc.health/Grant. That's twc.health/Grant. Use that promo code Grant. And here's what I would recommend to you. Check out the research at the wellness company. Check out all the products that Dr. McCullough was talking about. The medical kit certainly is a must if you want to be prepared for any emergency. But the methylene blue, the parasite cleanse, the spike detox, all of this is just what a fabulous company. twc.health/Grant. And then if you have family members that are thinking about getting the vaccine, again, I want you to send this podcast to them. All right, just share the link, copy paste the link. If you're on Rumble or YouTube or wherever, Facebook, copy paste the link and send it to them and let them watch and make a decision for themselves. Then you don't have to try and argue it, and you'll let Dr. McCullough make the case to your family members that you love so much. All right, folks, with that, it's going to do it for us. I'm so appreciative of all of you. We'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Central time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Stinchfield's Army rolls. We'll see you soon.